So I have two things right here. And I'm going to ask, what is the difference? Is there a difference between this dollar and this $100,000 life paper? And many would say, yes, obviously there's a difference. This is money, play money, and this is real money. However, that's incorrect. So, where does money come from? Trees. The truth is, few people actually know where the supply actually comes from. This is a question I had the moment I began my new job at a bank. My question was, where is all this money coming from? Where does it just spring into existence? Because that's what it seems like it does. And I want to give clear definitions as I present this. The difference between money and currency is currency. This dollar bill is a system of money used in certain countries. It doesn't need an asset or an enforced value. However, money is gold or silver. It's a medium of exchange with coins or banknotes and has something to back it up. So, when we had currency before, there was like a gold stamp on it, and you could go slap this dollar down, for example, at a bank and be like, I want my dollar in gold, and they could give it to you. However, it does not work like that anymore because they slowly got rid of that aspect. So a monetary system is a set of institutions used by governments to produce the country's currency and the economy. So what I will be going over is, what is the Federal Reserve and how does it operate? The benefits of the Federal Reserve and the fractional banking system, as well as the problems caused by the system itself and how it's bound to collapse. The Federal Reserve System, often referred as the Federal Reserve or Supply, or the Feds, is the central bank of the United States. It was created by Congress to provide the nation with a safer, more flexible, more stable monetary and financial system. The Reserve was created on December 3rd, 1913, when President Woodrow Wilson signed the Federal Reserve Act into law. They also called the system a monetary system, a set of mechanisms by which the government provides money, cash, in the country's economy. Next problem or aspect that money or currency causes is deficit spending. This is when the government spends more money than it can account for. For the currency needed to cover this deficit, it's loaned out at an interest by the Federal Reserve to the U.S. government. The interest then cannot be covered and will never be covered. It's just added debt. So you have a dollar, and then, or you have your money, and then you have your debt because you need an interest. And then you keep adding to it, but there will always be more debt than there is money. Because if you add a dollar into existence, where are you going to get the other one to pay it back? Like, you have to make it up, basically. Due to the Federal Reserve, they are paid for by our taxes, and we pay that through the IRS. As much as 90% of taxes collected by the IRS is paid to the interest owed by the government. It is impossible to pay back all the bonds that there are in the world without collapsing the whole economy. Scary. The Federal Reserve takes the tax money that's supposed to pay back the currency that was taken out of a zero balance account. In other words, created from thin air, begins the process all over again. It just keeps repeating itself. However, there are benefits of the Federal Reserve in fractional banking. For example, interest rates go down. The amount of money being borrowed can increase. This allows governments and other financial institutes to borrow money, and they don't have an act. have a high interest rate, which allows them for more flexibility and for more spending. It conducts the nation's monetary policy, influencing money and credit conditions, supervises and regulates banks and other important financial institutions, which is good, maintains the financial market and manages the risks to keep it stable. It also provides certain financial services to both U.S. and foreign governments and financial institutes. So it does profit us in that we can do things with it. As of right now, we can. However, there are negative side effects, you could say, of this system and how it may impact all of us and at some point it may collapse. So the system isn't backed up by any reserve or any real money, which would be considered gold or silver. The Federal Reserve is literally writing bad checks to you and I that should bounce because the account they are drawn on always is zero and always has been and always will be. The currency is based on nothing, and trying to pay it back, something which is impossible. You can't pay something back that wasn't real in the first place. The Federal Reserve is committing fraud. It's unconstitutional. The Founding Fathers were aware of this problem with central banking and therefore wrote in the Constitution itself not to have a central bank and that all reserves would be backed up by gold and silver. We've moved far from what our Founding Fathers have set down and laid for us because they knew the problems. The system is a form of a legalized theft. The Federal Reserve has stockholders, making it not a government agency, but a private banking cartel, you could say. It's not the government that controls it. It's private owners that are basically controlling your money. So other banks are controlling the money that comes into existence and that is there. It's not the government. The loans that we have or may get in the future are promises to pay the debt in the future, but are actually stealing from the posterity and so the future. And that does not allow them to enjoy their future, but it temporarily allows us to enjoy our future. What I mean by steals from it, so we're stealing money from the future to get what we want now. But it doesn't really work because we're still taking and creating money out of thin air. Some things we can do before the system crashes is really just educate yourself on this and find videos or papers and do your research on how this money system works, the monetary system, and how the Federal Reserve is really in charge of everything and what they're doing and how the bankers are the middlemen and probably the owners behind the whole scene. Another good way is to start getting gold and silver, backing yourself up with real money when and if currency collapses. Many countries are starting to refuse United States currency because they see the fault in it and are trying to do something different. They don't want that to affect them and their countries and are beginning to change that. However, there's hope and there's faith to always change the system and to get people to realize what's going on and how the Federal Reserve is scamming us and making us pay for things that we really don't need to pay for, that don't exist. Although they are there to protect us too, we just need to be careful because we never know what's going to happen.